All right, let's dive into something huge. What is the actual fundamental structure of our reality? We usually think about building the universe up from tiny little particles, but what if that's backward? What if the best way to really understand everything is to watch it all get taken apart? Today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going on a journey to find the hidden architecture of reality by pushing it to its absolute limits and seeing what happened when it all starts to dissolve.
And that brings us to the big one, the question that kind of flips everything on its head. We live our lives moving through space, and we feel time ticking by second. They feel like the absolute bedrock of existence, right? But what if they aren't? What if space and time are just the surface level, a feature of something much, much deeper? And honestly, a whole lot weirder.
Okay, so here's the game plan. Our journey to the source isn't about building up, it's about stripping away. We're going to follow a chain of logic, a kind of controlled demolition that takes us from the massive, complex universe we see all around us. And we're going to peel back layer after layer until we get to the absolute simplest thing possible.
So first stop on our journey, the largest scale we can even imagine. We're going to the very edge of the observable universe. This is where the rules we take for granted start to get flimsy and unravel, and where we get our first real peek at the structure underneath.
This boundary is called the Hubble-scale. Now, it's not a wall or anything physical. Think of it as a conceptual limit. It's the point so incredibly far away from us that the expansion of space itself is carrying things away faster than light can travel. Anything beyond that point, we can never see it, it can never affect us. And this is where things start to get really, really interesting.
So how does space itself just fall apart? Well, it's kind of like a chain reaction. First, as we said, at this massive scale, space is expanding faster than light. This leads to step 2, causal isolation. Just imagine space as a grid of points. At this scale, each point becomes its own little island, completely cut off. It can't send a signal to its neighbor, it can't receive one, they can't influence each other at all. And that leads to the final, critical step. The definition of space itself fails. I mean, if we define space as the potential for things to interact and connect, and that potential is suddenly gone, well, the very concept of space just collapses. It becomes meaningless. Okay, so if space itself just breaks down at the cosmic edge, what are we left with? It's not a void, it's not nothingness. The collapse of space actually reveals the next deeper layer of reality's architecture, one that doesn't need space at all, one that exists purely in time.
This really shows the difference. On the left, you've got our familiar material world, right? It's defined by existing in both space and time. But when you strip space out of the equation, you get what the source material calls the world soul. And as you can see, the world soul doesn't exist in space at all. It exists purely in time. It's the fundamental sequence of events, the what happens next for the entire universe.
This world soul is described as aviveternal, and that is a fantastic word. It means it coexists with all of time, from the Big Bang to the very end. It isn't in a location, but it provides the temporal flow for every location. Think of it like the musical score for the universe. It dictates the rhythm and the sequence of every single note, but it's not the concert hall itself.
Well, this brings up a fascinating puzzle, doesn't it? If this world soul is the next layer down, and it has no concept of space, how in the world could it possibly be aware of our spatial material world? How does it connect to all the stuff actually happening out there in the cosmos?
Let's just ask it directly. How can something that exists only as a sequence of time perceive events happening in different places? It feels like a total paradox. But believe it or not, the answer might just be hiding in a really strange and wonderful corner of cosmology.
The proposed mechanism has this wild name, the cosmic dynamical Casimir effect. But here's what it means in simple terms. The insane expansion of the very early universe literally shook the fabric of gravity itself. It was so violent that this shaking created particles, gravitons, the particles of gravity, right out of the vacuum. But here is the absolutely crucial part. This process only created massive gravitons, with wavelengths as big as the entire observable universe. We're talking about waves of gravity that stretch from one end of reality to the other.
Okay, so these universe-sized gravitons create a single, undivided field of global awareness. But how does something global know what's happening locally, like right here on Earth? Well, for that to happen, the universe can't be perfectly smooth. It has to be lumpy or inhomogeneous. And we actually have pretty good evidence for this. Giant structures like the Hercules Corona Borealis Great Wall. That thing is 10 billion light-years across. That really challenges the idea that the universe is the same everywhere. And it's these cosmic lumps,
these local variations that allow the giant global gravity waves to interact with and gather information from local events.
And this all leads to this really powerful analogy. The world soul is a boundless ocean of awareness. The material world is merely a single, non-aware wave within it. Just think about that for a second. The entire material universe is just a ripple. The ripple itself isn't aware, but the ocean that it's made of is.
So we've dissolved space to find a reality made of pure time. You'd think that's as deep as we can go, right? Well, our journey's not over. The next stage of this dissolution goes even further. What happens if we manage to take away time itself?
So the sources we're looking at speculate about a temporal force, something even more fundamental than gravity. And just like cosmic expansion creates a horizon in space, this theoretical force could, at an even grander scale, create a temporal event horizon, a boundary in time itself.
And the consequence of that is just staggering. A temporal horizon would isolate every single moment from the one that comes next. If now can never flow into the next now, then the very idea of duration, of sequence, of change, the entire reality of the world's soul, it just vanishes. The river of time completely stops flowing.
So what's left when time itself collapses into a single point? We arrive at the next layer, Nous, or the divine intellect. If the world soul was like a story unfolding one event after another, Nous is the opposite. It's a completely timeless, eternal reality. It doesn't experience things in a sequence. Instead, it contemplates every possibility, every form, every single idea all at once, in one perfect static now. It's the complete blueprint for everything that ever could be.
We've dissolved space and we've dissolved time. There is only one final step left on our journey of deconstruction. We have to strip away this final layer of complexity to find the ultimate absolute source of everything.
Just think about it for a second. Without space, you can't have separate locations. Without the flow of time, you can't have a sequence of events. There is literally nothing left that can create any kind of difference or multiplicity or division. So all those infinite ideas being contemplated by Nous, they must all collapse together.
And this final state is what we call the One. It has to be the simplest possible concept because it has no parts, no dimensions, no properties. It is just pure, absolute unity. Every single thing in our vast, complex universe is ultimately just an echo, a shadow of this single, non-extended point of pure being. This quote just captures it perfectly. In the state of the One, the knower, the knowing, and the known are one. There's no separation anymore between the thing that knows, the act of knowing, and the thing that is known. All of those distinctions just dissolve into one single act of self-illumination. It's the final irreducible point from which all complexity flows. And so we're left with this final, really provocative thought. We started at the very edge of our universe. We stripped away space, then we stripped away time, then we stripped away multiplicity itself, all to arrive at a point of absolute simplicity. So could it be, could our entire reality, in all of its mind-boggling, beautiful complexity, just be a cascade of reflections from a source that is infinitely, perfectly simple? Now that is a powerful idea to think about.